I'd like to give everybody a heartfelt welcome to the 40 v19 R6 release webinar. Now, Jim and I are happy to be here today to take stock and review all of the great features that are in 4019 R6. I personally like these webinars because it allows me to spend the time that I need with the latest version to learn to really get to understand and play with all of the great new features that are happening and being added into 4D with every 3 months. So just a little housekeeping. Our webinar will be structured in themes, so developer to 4D Right Pro, etc. And at the end of each theme or section, we will have a Q&A. If you have any questions about anything that we're discussing now, anything pertinent to the feature release webinar, feel free to add them in the Q&A, because why we like the Q&A is when we receive a report at the end of a webinar, and we get to look at the questions, and if we do feel like we didn't answer the question 100% correctly, or we need to send more information, we like to be able to get that information to you to make sure that everything is clear. So there's that. And yeah, just try to keep the topics to release issues. We're not here to comment on TAO cases and things like that. So just please, yeah. And so without further ado, let's get started. And the first topic is going to be the news for you, the news you can use, developer news. And the first, so harness the power of white space when designing your list boxes with horizontal and vertical padding. In addition to giving your list boxes new presentation possibilities and an even more professional look to your UI, they will help maintain focus, improve visual organization, and increase readability of your list box. Now, these properties can be set globally for the whole list box or for each element, like a column, header, or footer. Once defined for a list box, they will be applied to every sub-object of the list box by inheritance. But of course, each sub-object can have its own settings. And setting the padding can be done either via design mode under the list properties get or coordinates and sizing, by programming using listbox set property and the new constant LK cell horizontal padding and LK cell vertical padding. Here's a quick demo to show how it looks. Here's the horizontal padding. You see you can play all around with it, and you can get the pixels that you added padding, and the same for the vertical padding, the header, columns. So it's a very cool feature. And I know Ad has been waiting for this feature for a long time, and he's really happy to be able to do it, to use it, to add the padding. So, and if you're one of the developers who ask for the possibility to work simultaneously with teammates on a single development server, then 40 v19 R6 will grant you your wish, thanks to a new mode for connecting to a 40 client, to a 40 server, development mode. Now, in development mode, developers can modify the database structure, methods, forms, and settings. And we changed the locking system to provide the same functionality as you had in team developer mode or binary mode. So in good news for those of you that still develop in binary mode, you can now adopt project mode without impacting your organization and benefit from project mode's exclusive features like silicon compilation, CSS forms, classes, computed attributes, and when you're ready, source control systems like Git. And to continue improving the syntax and functionality of 4D, we've decided to modernize the HTTP client commands in 4D. Now, as a result, the first set of HTTP classes comes with is being delivered with 19R6. Now, this is only a start. More functionalities will be coming with future releases. And here's a really cool demo on how HTTP requests can be either done synchronously, asynchronously in parallel, or asynchronously loading via callbacks. So here's a map of France. If you do it synchronously, one after the other, it takes longer. And you'll see the asynchronous and the callbacks, and the asynchronous with callbacks go faster. It's not frozen. It just takes a while. There we go. I can clear it. There you go. Asynchronously with parallel. Clear it. We're going to do loading with the callbacks. And the how do I is a great example from the log, is a great example of how this works in a really simple way using getting weather, using a weather API. Now, so you need larger numbers, larger integers, larger than 2 billion or 32 bits with high accuracy. Like say you have a really big counter, or you want to store the number of drops of water in each ocean, right? Now, we've enhanced reals to the reel to allow you to handle this use case. Now, in 19R6, real numbers are up to 53 bits, meaning that you can go from about -9 quadrillion to -9 quadrillion with great accuracy when you store your integers in a real. Now, converting to or from text was limited to 12-digit scientific notation, resulting in a loss of precision. Now, with 4D v19R6, we have improved the accuracy and conversion as well of any real number being represented as an integer into text. The improvements of this conversion to string concern the string command and the JSON and XML commands returning numbers in string form. Now, in 4D19R6, there is a simpler way to use collections with the member method that needs a callback method. Now, 4D allows you to use a formula to define callbacks in the collection member functions, like every, filter, find, sort, etc. And you can use these in the execute method in subform, command call form, and your call worker commands. This allows you to simplify your code and to maybe reduce the amount of individual methods you have to do for those little things that you're doing with your collections. Here's a cool thing. So you say you have a list of, so you have a collection of numbers and you want to put it into a, say, a JSON style object. You can do it that way. You can take your collection and you can calculate certain values of the collection in a one-liner. It's very cool. And it's really fast. You can also use this. You can use this in many different ways. You can use it to find elements. So in a collection of countries, which countries are in Asia, for example. And you can use it to increment the values in subforms, for example. So many different ways and many ways to simplify your code. The Data Explorer allows you to view, sort, and query your database using a modern, simple, and elegant web interface. And the Data Explorer comes standard in all modern versions of 4D. So with 4D v19 R6, the Data Explorer is continuing to evolve. You can now visualize the relations in your data. And here's a quick video demonstration about how this works. So next topic we're going to talk about is 4D Write Pro, and I'm going to pass the mic to Ad so he can kind of give you an overview as to all of the great new features in 4D Write Pro and what an amazing engine it's a document producing engine it's become. Ad?
Thanks, Will. Hi, everybody. So for the Write Pro feature for this release, really focus on the efficient way to process and generate a document. We have added several features, and one of the features that we really think is going to be very helpful to you, especially for those who are familiar with document processing, mail merge, for example, or any type of batch operation that will produce multiple documents based on your data set would be benefit from this particular feature. So let's take a look at the first example. Now, we'll give you a simple way to bind your data. We'll call it creating a context to your document. So a document can be bound to an entity, for example. In this example, you'll see that there are several references to an entity that is coming from our data class. The keyword this and .data, that's to signify where you want to load or print the data into your document. Once you have created those references into your document, you can simply run a code in to populate the data. So let's go to the next slide. That will be a little bit more clearer what it looks like. So for this slide, you'll see right away that we're utilizing for each, and this will go through the loop of each entity within the entity selection. Every entity will bind that data using the command set data context to create a context within a document. And the next thing that we need to do is just do the command w preprint. For example, if you want to generate the document either to the your printer, your output somewhere else into a file, that can be done easily. Let's go to the next example. This is another example that we're all familiar with. We have a selection of data that we want to print into multiple entries. In this particular example, is kind of similar to the last one, except that we can actually bind our data context to not only to the document, but to parts of your document. In this example, you'll see that in the middle, there's a table there. That table represents a selection of your entity. And with the information that we bind to the table, we'll be able to print all of the entity, each entity within the selection into the document. If you look on the right side, you'll see that there are 9 pages altogether. And 4D Pro is smart enough to be able to break it up into which part that needs to be printed. And every time a page break happens, it continues on with the next page until the rest is printed. Next one. This one is also similar. Not only you can bind the context to the whole document to a single table, each table can have its own context as well. So you'll be able to create multiple contexts within your single document. We give this example, 2 tables. The top table has one set of entity that deals with certain information, departure, and the bottom one deal with arrival of the cars. So yeah, in the way you will have the freedom in order to bind your data into your document and print it according to your preferences. Next example. So this is something that's quite familiar to all of us. We do print selection. At least myself, I do quite a bit with what I do, and it's something that is familiar with many of you as well. So you have the header section of your document or your printout. The midsection would be your detail where you print all of the data. You have a header of each column. At the bottom, you may have something that represents the summation of some of your data. So in this case, we use 4D Pro to generate sort of a same type of printout that is generated by print selection. On the top, we bind it to the whole context of 4D document with the main entity. The next part will be the table containing your related entities, all this entity selection. And you can see right away at the top, there's a header row. The white row area there, that's where it's going to be repeated as many times as you have in your entity. And the bottom would be the last section where all of the summation, the conclusion of your document that you want to print. So if we run the code to generate this document, this is what it's going to look like. So you can see right away on the top, there's a header, and as well as there's a header row representing each column, as well as the data that gets repeated, similar to print selection. And finally, at the bottom, you'll see the conclusion of your printout where it printed all of the totals, maximum value, average, and minimum value. Okay. We have another similar example. So this one kind of, quite similar, but sometimes when you print selection, you might have the data selection that cannot fit in one page. So it's going to flood over to the next page. So in this case, we created an example that's similar to the last one. So let's go ahead and play this example. You see right away that at the top section here, we have some name, address, as well as the table that starts from the top. So as we're printing, if the data requires additional page break is going to happen, immediately 4D Pro will recognize that, oh, it needs to print the header for the next page. And it's going to do that for you automatically without having to do anything else. Okay, let's go next. So this is kind of a unique feature. There are many use cases that you can use out of this. 4D Pro can now generate an SVG file for you, whether the whole document or individual page that you can use. I can already imagine some of you may need to implement something that allows you to see sort of a thumbnail on the right side or the left side of the 4D right screen that allows you to click very easily to navigate your document very quickly. So you can use this feature to generate an SVG version of your 4D right of each page. This way, you have a much more control over, the information that's going to go out. And plus, you can also bring them back in and compose them and print it out into PDF if you want. Now, it's also, I want to highlight some of the past features that's already been available as well, which is the ability to create a PDF as well as generate a Word document that is already available in the earlier version of the feature release of 4D Write Pro. This is something that's quite useful for many people who wants to be able to exchange the document within 4D application and other application outside of 4D. Next, please. Okay, and the feature that you're looking at here, this is quite unique when you're dealing with pictures on a 4D Write document. Sometimes if you compose your 4D Write document in the way that is showing up inline, 4D Write document will try its best to render all of the images. What happened when the image is not supported or the format for that particular format, or if the image is missing. You're going to see right away on the top of that document, you'll see a little small rectangle representing an empty picture. So we'll go ahead and hit play. Now, with this feature, you'll be able to display your document, even though I'll be able to hide that rectangle representing an empty picture or unsupported picture. Most of the time, you kind of don't want that because it just kind of destroys the layout of your document. So this feature comes in very handy. It automatically happens, and you can control this feature through multiple options. One of them is from the property list. You can also control this feature manually through one of the 4D Write Pro widget menu option or the toolbar that is available through our object library, or you can do it programmatically through our 4D Write Pro language. Okay, so I think this one is going to be quite useful for many of you who's dealing with images within your 4D Write Pro document.
And now, let's talk about the 4D View Pro news. So 4D View Pro is 4D's 4D View Pro is 4D's spreadsheeting application, built-in spreadsheeting application that's built on top of a super robust JavaScript framework, Spread.js. And this is a big new feature in 4D View Pro. So 4D View Pro already allows you to easily load and display data in spreadsheets. 4D v19 R6 brings a new table feature that enables you to do much more and benefit from additional property like headers, table resize, summary row, column sorting, filters, and more. This feature allows you to also quickly load data from data classes and collection. Say hello to the VP create table command. You can use this to say which column, here's a quick, see here you have the table, initialize the table. You can have next. You can have the table based on a customer. You can create a table here, and you can have your table created inside of your 4D View Pro area. And you can also say which columns you'd like in your table with this sort of simple logic. So you can even have this be a report generator type of thing where you can say, oh, I'd like to show these things in this table. I'd like not to show these things. And then you would then be able to export it out to Excel. Pretty cool. And for further reading about 4D View Pro, I'd like to invite you to read Ty's most recent tech notes, Working with Tables. It not only discusses tables, but also gives a great introduction about the built-in features in 4D View Pro and how it can help you easily develop features for your end users that have some major impact. So if you haven't already read it, I would grab it. I'd like to go on to the next section, 4D for mobile news. Now, 4D for mobile is 4D's low-code editor to create native iOS and Android applications, 4D for iOS and 4D for Android. And as you probably already know, aliases have been available for some time in 4D. The introduction of aliases and computed attributes was a massive step forward in our development framework. The days of defining business-related formulas in your 4D user interface are over. These concepts offer you a new way to separate your business logic from your UI, enabling you to improve performance by optimizing these parts separately. And now, with 4D v19 R6, aliases are fully available and ready to use for scalers in your iOS and Android mobile projects as soon as they're defined on the 4D side. Now, with 4D v19 R6, you can display the same mobile screen values anywhere in your database. It's very cool. So write once, use many places. Now, with every feature release, we also ship new features to 4D for Android. And 4D v19 R6 is no exception with these two new additions. Now in 4D for Android, you have the possibility for the management of offline actions in the same use case as you have in 4D for iOS. And you have the possibility of not regenerating the data at each generation of the mobile application. And this helps you save time. We've seen that it helps save a lot of time in application development. It's a quick demo of how to do, how it looks. Now, if you didn't know yet, he's selling out arenas again. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about JPR. And we invite you to join us in some deep learning with him. He's back and in great form from the comfort of his home in Vendée, France. And he's going to be holding another 10-hour intensive training, including Q&A over a 4-day period, starting November 8th. And I recommend you hurry up and sign up because there are limited seats and they are filling up fast. And is any of this familiar? You're growing 30% or more of your user base or system. You have experienced issues with performance or crashes of your 4D application. You need to add mission-critical modules, tables, or components. You would like to work closely with 4D in the long run, either for development, support, or interventions. Or you want to know the quality of your source code and detect areas for improvement. Say, if there's a potential investor that says, how is your application running? Well, if you answered yes to any of these, we recommend wholeheartedly what we call 4D deep code analysis. Now, 4D deep code analysis has helped dozens of US customers over the past few years, and companies reach the next level of their application. A major topic of a deep code analysis has been there is a potential person that wants to purchase your application, and that person requires an objective review of your application in order to assess the validity. Or you're preparing your application to be sold, and you want to make sure your application is as great as it can be. Another thing that people like to do or people have used this for is when everybody went to go work at home, applications, for some reason, applications that worked really well on the LAN didn't work super great on the WAN. So we were able to review the source code and the client server logs in order to help provide the developer ways in which they could optimize their application for easier usage over the WAN. So some great ways in which you could use a deep code analysis. So if you're interested in that, feel free to contact myself or your account representative or ps@40.com, for professional service at 40.com. So, and I've already plugged it once, but I'm going to plug it again because this is the place that that's where we go for, this is the place we go for 4D news and great discussions, the start of great discussions about all features. So please, if you don't have the blog bookmarked, I recommend you do it. You bookmark it and you read it often because it has great tidbits of information. And any issues, then we'll talk later. So, and if not, we'll see you in 3 months for the next feature release webinar. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye, guys.